I buried my son alone. Sharon didn't show. She didn't even call. People kept asking where she was, and all I could manage was that she had a conflict. It felt like a lie, but it was the only word that didn't twist in my throat. The service was small. Too small, really. Mark was only 7, and there wasn't even a crowd. Friends from work and a few neighbors came, giving their quiet nods and half-hearted hugs, all the while avoiding looking at me too long. I think they were afraid of seeing something in my eyes, like maybe it would break them too. I stood by the casket, legs gone numb, eyes too dry. There was a part of me that kept hoping she'd walk in, Sharon, with that fake smile she used when she was trying to make up for something. But she didn't. Not once. I checked my phone. It buzzed. Sharon's text. Can't talk. Major client dinner. I'll call later. No apology, no mention of Mark, not even a word of sympathy. The thing that made my hands shake wasn't the text itself. It was the little gray tag under it. Scottsdale, a spa resort. She wasn't at some business meeting. She was somewhere warm, somewhere she could forget. I tried not to let the thought in, but it forced its way through anyway. She wasn't just absent. She was gone, and I was standing there burying our son with no one except me. I couldn't breathe when I saw the pictures. Sharon in a cabana, her arm around a guy I didn't recognize. Both of them leaning in, holding drinks like they were on vacation, like life hadn't come to a screeching halt for me. I scrolled down, hoping, praying. There'd be some explanation, something that made it not as bad as it seemed. But it only got worse. There was a receipt for $3,400. Massages, dinners, some fancy resort package. The same weekend we had made the decision to pull Mark off life support. My chest tightened, the air suddenly too thick to breathe. It felt like a punch to the gut, and I stood there, frozen, staring at the screen. She hadn't just left me alone to bury our son. She had run off to have fun, to escape, to make a mockery of everything we had been. I slammed the laptop shut, my mind racing. I needed to know who this guy was. I needed to know how far this went. If I was going to find out anything, I had to start with B. Sharon thought she was being careful, but she got sloppy near the end. The burner phone, the secret bank accounts, all of it. She hadn't even tried to hide it from me anymore. It was like she thought I'd never find out. Like I'd just keep letting her walk all over me. I grabbed the laptop again, opened it, and typed in B. My heart hammered in my chest as I went through her old emails. And then, there it was, a flight confirmation for a trip to Scottsdale, shared with someone named Brandon. My stomach dropped. It couldn't be. I sat down hard in the chair, my hands trembling. Brandon, my Brandon. The one I'd helped move into his new place when his dad died. The one we used to have barbecues with, talk about stupid stuff. The one who came over for New Year's Eve, laughed at bad jokes, drank too much. I stared at the screen, disbelief slamming into me. It wasn't just some fling. Sharon hadn't just been looking for comfort. She'd been lying, sneaking around with someone I trusted, someone I knew, someone who I thought would have had my back. And now, looking at these pictures, I could feel my blood boiling in my veins. She hadn't just been breaking me. She'd been laughing at me behind my back. I clicked through more photos, desperate to piece it together. There was one with them at dinner, her hand on his arm, and another where they were on a hiking trail, faces flushed from the sun. And in every single one of them, I didn't see a woman who was grieving or torn. I saw a woman who had checked out. She'd completely checked out. The worst part, it was all happening the weekend we were supposed to be saying goodbye to Mark. I couldn't get the images of them out of my head, their smiles, their drinks. Meanwhile, I was sitting in a hospital room, holding my son's hand as he took his last breath. I thought I had nothing left to lose. I thought I was already empty, but I wasn't. Not yet. I needed answers. I needed to know how deep this went. Why wasn't I enough? What had happened to us? I couldn't keep drowning in the questions. I needed to confront it, and the only way to do that was to find out who Brandon really was in all of this. I wasn't going to let her, or him, get away with it. I sat there for hours, scrolling through every message between Sharon and Brandon. The more I read, the tighter the knot in my stomach twisted. They hadn't just met up a couple of times. They'd been seeing each other on and off for almost a year. A full year. It felt like a sucker punch to the chest. I couldn't even focus on the details, just the timeline of it all. They'd reconnected on LinkedIn, Sharon had said. She'd told me it was harmless, that it was nothing more than catching up. But now, looking at the texts, I could see the truth. She wasn't just checking in on an old friend, she was dating him. They'd been sneaking around behind my back, planning trips, making jokes, talking about things they never shared with me. And while she was doing all that, I was running myself into the ground, working 2 jobs, covering hospital bills, doing everything I could to keep us afloat. I was barely sleeping, 3 hours a night, if I was lucky. And Sharon, she was planning weekend getaways, laughing at messages from Brandon, leaning into him like nothing had changed. One message stood out in particular. Brandon had asked her about Mark, about his condition. Sharon had replied that she was so tired of it all, that she felt trapped in grief. Trapped in grief? I almost threw the phone across the room. She said I was too obsessed with Mark's illness. Like I wasn't the one who had to be the one constantly in his hospital room, holding his hand while she was off on spa weekends. I took a deep breath, trying to keep the rage from overtaking me. But it wasn't just the affair. It was how easily she had replaced me, replaced our life, our family. How quickly she'd turned away from everything we built together and moved on to something else, something easier. I almost didn't want to see what else was in the phone, but I couldn't stop. The more I dug, the more I found. There were pictures of them, smiling at the beach, her with her head on his shoulder like she was home. Another photo from a trip to Napa, both of them holding glasses of wine. So comfortable, so happy. I felt like the ground beneath me had cracked open. The betrayal wasn't just that she'd slept with him, it was that she had built a whole different life, one that didn't include me, and that was something I could never forget. I stood up and paced around the room, trying to shake off the anger, the humiliation, but it didn't work. It wasn't just the affair, it was everything she'd stolen from me, from us, and how easily she'd walked away from it all without a second thought. I wasn't going to let this go, not now, not ever. I had to make sure she knew what she had done, and that it would cost her more than she could ever imagine. I went to an attorney, not to file for divorce, not yet, but to protect myself, to make sure Sharon couldn't clean me out and disappear without a trace. I felt like I was drowning in a pool of deceit, and the only way out was through cold, hard facts. The lawyer didn't waste any time. After a quick look at my situation, he told me to gather everything: emails, texts, photos, bank records. It felt like a full-time job just collecting the evidence. But the more I dug, the clearer it became. Sharon had already taken more than she should have, a lot more. She had opened a business account in her name, without telling me, and moved $46,000 from our joint savings into it. That money was supposed to cover Mark's experimental treatment, the one we had hoped would save him. Sharon told me it was delayed due to insurance, that we'd just have to wait. I didn't question it because, well, what was I supposed to do? I was already juggling so much I couldn't keep track of everything. But she had drained it, every last penny. And now I had the bank records to prove it. I sat in my car after the lawyer's office, staring at the documents in my hands. My mind buzzed with the words I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I had to be smart. I had to think. Sharon thought she'd covered her tracks, but she hadn't. She left a trail, a long one I could follow piece by piece, until it led me straight to the truth. I hired a forensic accountant to track every penny, someone who could look at all the transactions and see the patterns I missed, the ones Sharon thought she could hide behind her lies. I wasn't going to let her get away with this, not without a fight. I had to protect myself, but also Mark. He wasn't here to protect his own memory, and I would. I also started recording phone calls. I knew it was risky, but I didn't care anymore. I had to get her to admit what she'd done. So I called her one night, pretending like everything was fine, like I wasn't already piecing together the wreckage of our marriage. She picked up, her voice too bright, too fake. "Hey, what's up?" she said. I asked her about the money, about the business account, about the trip to Scottsdale. She was quiet for a second, then she laughed, half nervous, half dismissive. "You know, I did what I had to do to cope, okay?" she said. "You were obsessed with Mark's illness. I couldn't handle it anymore." Obsessed? I couldn't breathe. This was it. This was the moment where she revealed everything. The fact that she'd been so checked out, so willing to leave me alone in my grief, just to escape. But what struck me even harder was the coldness of it. She wasn't sorry, not one bit. She had her reasons, her justifications, and that was all that mattered to her. I called the lawyer again. This wasn't just about me and Sharon anymore. This was about making sure she couldn't disappear with everything that was left of our life, my life. And that was something I wasn't going to let her get away with. I asked Sharon to meet at the house, to talk about the future, I said. She didn't ask what that meant. She just agreed, probably thinking it was going to be another one of those awkward, half-hearted discussions we'd been having lately. When she walked in, she didn't look surprised or nervous. She walked in like she owned the place, like everything was still fine. She smiled, looked me over, and said, "You look tired." It was like a slap. She couldn't have been more oblivious, or maybe she just didn't care anymore. I didn't say anything. I just pointed to the couch and motioned for her to sit down. My hands were shaking, but I had to stay calm. I had to show her how much control I had, even if everything inside me was screaming at her to feel something. I sat down across from her, took a deep breath, and hit play on the voicemail. Her voice, clear as day, came through the speakers. "I don't even know why we're doing this. It's pointless. Mark's funeral, all of it. We're just going through the motions." She froze. Her face went pale, like she'd just seen a ghost. The kind of ghost she'd created by pretending I didn't matter, by pretending Mark's death didn't matter. I waited. I let the silence hang in the air between us. Her lips parted like she was going to say something, but she didn't. Instead, I slid the bank records across the table. She didn't reach for them at first. I thought she was going to deny it, but she didn't. She just stared at the numbers, her breath coming in shallow bursts. I could see the way her hands started to shake. Finally, she spoke. "What do you want from me?" I looked her straight in the eye. "Nothing." Her brow furrowed, like she didn't understand. "What do you mean, nothing?" "I want you to watch your life collapse the way mine did the moment Mark died." She opened her mouth to respond, but I didn't let her. She wasn't going to turn this back on me. Not this time. "I have everything," I said. "The loan from Brandon, the business account, the money you drained from us, the trips you took. You thought I wouldn't find out? You thought I wouldn't figure it out?" Her face was unreadable now, but I could tell it was sinking in. She wasn't used to being caught. She thought she could run, cover her tracks, and start fresh. But she was wrong. I let it hang there a moment longer, then added, "And the resort? The one you went to with Brandon?" She blinked at me, confused. "Brandon put the whole thing on his company card. They're investigating him now. Internal audit. His company's looking at every penny." Her eyes widened. She looked like she'd just been hit by a truck, like the world was crumbling around her and she couldn't stop it. It wasn't just her life that was falling apart. It was Brandon's too. She opened her mouth again, but no words came out. The silence stretched on. It was beautiful. "You thought the worst was over?" I said softly. "You thought you could slip away and I'd just forget? You were wrong. So wrong." Sharon was shaking now, but it wasn't out of guilt. It was out of fear. She knew this was it. She knew her life as she'd built it was over. And for the first time, I felt like I had the upper hand. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I had earned this. I stood up, and I could feel her eyes on me, her gaze like hot needles in my back. I didn't look at her again. I didn't need to. "I'll be in touch," I said. "But don't think for a second you can fix this, because you can't." She didn't say anything as I walked out of the room. There was nothing left to say. The fallout started fast. Brandon's company launched a formal audit. I didn't have to do a thing, just sent the receipts, the flight confirmations, the email exchanges to the right inboxes. He was suspended within days. I sat back, watching it all unfold, numb, but still oddly detached. His wife found out everything, all of it. The trips, the money, the messages. It wasn't hard for her to figure out. I didn't leak it to her, but once she knew, it didn't matter. His company was investigating him, and his personal life was already wrecked. I wasn't proud of it, but I didn't care either. He had chosen to play a part in my destruction. He deserved what he got. Sharon's business didn't last long either. It crashed, hard. Turns out Brandon had invested in it. Through his wife's name, of course. So, when everything blew up, her accounts were frozen, and the legal mess began. I wasn't watching for entertainment, though. I wasn't taking pleasure in the wreckage, even if it seemed like that. Sharon had taken everything from me, had walked away without a second thought. And now I was watching it all crumble around her, her empire, her life. But there was no satisfaction in it, no sense of justice, only the quiet, hollow sound of my own heart beating in my chest. Sharon moved in with her sister. I couldn't even imagine the humiliation she must have felt. Or maybe she didn't feel it at all. I didn't care. I deleted the email she sent me. It was long, full of apologies and explanations. But I didn't want to hear any of it, not anymore. I wasn't interested in her regrets. I didn't need them. The wreckage was spreading fast. Everything she built was falling apart. Her world was collapsing. But as the dust settled, I realized something. I didn't feel any better. I didn't feel vindicated or relieved. It was just empty. It was like I had gotten what I wanted, and yet it still wasn't enough. It didn't fix anything. I'd hoped it would, but it didn't. And then I got a call from Sharon's sister. I had no idea what she wanted, but I knew it wasn't going to be good. I didn't answer the first time or the second, but on the third call, I picked up. I thought she might try to defend Sharon, but that's not what happened. I'm not calling to make excuses for her, Sharon's sister said. Her voice was low, tight, like she'd been holding it together for far too long. I'm calling because she's planning something. She's been talking about fighting you for part of the pension, claiming financial abuse. I don't know what's going on in her head, but I wanted you to know. You need to be ready. My blood ran cold. She was still trying to take from me, even after everything. I'm not defending her, she repeated. But she's desperate. You need to be careful. She'll do anything to get what she thinks she's owed. I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say. I couldn't even process it. It felt like the walls were closing in on me again, like this war wasn't over yet. But I was ready. I'd already gone this far. And if Sharon thought she could take more from me, she was wrong. She wasn't going to win. I ended the call without saying anything more. I wasn't angry. I was just tired, exhausted. I had already given everything I had, and now it seemed like she was going to drag me through another round of this mess. It wasn't enough that she'd taken everything. Now she wanted to take whatever was left. I wasn't going to let her, but that didn't make me feel any better either. It just meant there was more to lose, more to fight for, and I was already too worn out. I thought it was over. Sharon had lost. I'd made my case, and now she was out of my life. But, of course, she couldn't let it go, not even when everything had already crumbled around her. Her sister's warning wasn't just paranoia. Sharon was planning to fight me for part of my pension. My pension. I couldn't believe it, but at that point, I wasn't surprised. She had taken everything she could, and now she was going for the last piece of my future. I wasn't going to let her. I wasn't going to let her keep coming at me. So I told my lawyer to file a restraining order. I wanted everything documented, every move she made. We submitted evidence of the financial abuse. I had everything lined up, all the facts in black and white. Then I mailed a certified copy of the filing to her new place, just to make sure she knew I was serious. What I didn't expect was how fast things would escalate. I was at work when I got the call. Sharon had shown up at the parking lot, screaming, banging on my car, demanding to talk. The whole HR team was alerted, and before I knew it, security had to escort her off the property. They called me immediately, but I didn't leave my office. I should have felt some relief, but I didn't. I felt exhausted. She'd been doing this for months, and it never stopped. Even now, when she had nothing left to take, she was still trying to tear me down. The HR team offered me time off, but I didn't take it. I didn't need to hide from this anymore. I needed structure. I needed to keep moving, keep working, even if it felt like the walls were closing in. I wasn't the one who had lost everything. She was. She'd lost everything by making every single wrong decision, and I wasn't going to let her drag me down any further. But even as I walked away from that mess at work, it wasn't quite over. It didn't feel like a win. It didn't make me feel better. It just confirmed what I'd already known. Sharon wasn't the only one lying, and Brandon, the guy I'd once called a friend, had played his part in all of this too. I called my lawyer right away, told him I was moving forward with whatever came next. The walls felt bare at first, too empty, but it wasn't long before I got used to it. I got a dog, a mutt from the shelter. He was scrappy, just like me. I named him Buddy. I took Mark's glove and hung it by the front door, like he might walk in at any moment and want to go play catch. I couldn't take it down. It felt like a piece of him should always be here, even if I couldn't hold him anymore. I started coaching Little League on weekends. At first it was just something to do to fill the time, but then it became something more. I could see the way the kids looked at me, like maybe I knew something they didn't, like I had something to teach them. So I did. I taught them about the game, but also about showing up, about how to keep going, even when it's hard. I still think about Mark every day. That won't change. I don't want it to change. He was my son. I'll always carry him with me, but the pain isn't as sharp anymore. It's quieter now. Sometimes I catch myself smiling at the memories instead of just grieving the loss. Sharon filed for bankruptcy, the way I expected. Her business tanked. The last I heard, she moved out of state, disappeared into whatever new life she's building for herself. I don't know where she went. I don't care. I'm not angry anymore. Anger takes too much energy, and I don't have it to spare. I just don't think about her. Not much anyway. The occasional thought, sure, a flicker of something when I hear her name or see something that reminds me of her. But it's like she's a ghost now. She's not part of my life anymore. Sometimes parents at Little League ask me why I'm there, coaching, if I don't have a kid on the team. I tell them I used to, and I still do. They don't need to know anything more than that. I don't have a perfect life. It's still messy sometimes, but it's mine. I've started to rebuild, little by little, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay.